I thank you for being here. How many of you like dad jokes? All right, let's try one. What did Adam say to his wife the day before Christmas? It's Christmas Eve. I heard about a dad, an elderly father. He phoned his son who was right across the country, and he said to his son, he says, look, I know it's 2 or 3 days before Christmas, 3 days before Christmas, but I got to tell you what's going on here in our home. You mean me and your mom, we're splitting up. It's 45 years. We can't live another day with each other. The son says, what are you talking about, Dad? You can't do this. He says, yep, that's what's going to happen. We're splitting up. I just wanted you to know I don't want to talk to anybody else about it. So phone your busybody sister and bossy sister and tell her what's going on. The son got off the phoned the sister. Sister says, that's not going to happen. I'll take care of it. So she phones her dad right away. And she says, what's going on, Dad? I heard you guys are getting worse. She said, that's not going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. Don't do a thing. Me and my brother and our entire family, we are going to be coming on Christmas Eve. We'll bring all the food. You don't have to worry about any of it. And we're going to bring the kids with us. He hung up. He looked at his wife and says, it worked. They'll be here. They're bringing the food. And we don't have to pay for any of it. I read about a survey study that was done in South America. It had to do with an orphanage. There was about 97 kids from age range of 3 months all the way to 3 years old. And what had happened in this orphanage is that they were so understaffed and under budget that these 97 children hardly had any physical touch for 2 years. Here's what they found. That after 3 months, they started seeing a lot of symptoms in the kids. Not sleeping, not eating, anxiety, restlessness. Another 3 months, their health began to deteriorate. In the first year, 27 of those children died. By the second year, only 12 of those kids survived. When they looked back at what was it? It wasn't that they had a disease. It was simply this. There was no physical touch. I think all of us would understand how important a physical touch is to a person. You know, today we live in an age, I want to put up a picture. I think this is very indicative of how most people spend their time together in any kind of group. Would you agree or disagree? That might be your family right there. So we have all of this communication, but we lack any meaningful connection. And if Christmas is about anything, it is about a connection. Heaven touching earth. That the creator of the universe reached down to us. The story of Christmas is not a story of earth reaching up to heaven. It is the reality of heaven reaching down to us. God Himself. Emmanuel. God with us. The Gospel of John chapter 1 verse 14. This is what He said. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. For the ancient Jews, they would have a hard time accepting that a great God the God of the Old Testament, would take on human form, would lower himself. To the people that John was writing to, when he said that the Word became flesh, he was saying to them that Jesus has come to us. He uses this interesting word, dwelt. Really, it's a word that they would have quickly recognized. Really, it comes from the idea of tabernacling, or really what it literally means is that God came, he pitched a tent to live among us. Tonight, we celebrate this truth, that Christmas is the celebration of heaven touching earth. That has always been God's redemptive plan. You know, the story of Jesus began long before Bethlehem. After sin entered creation and fractured it, God spoke this word of hope. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15 says, "The seed of the woman shall bruise the serpent's head." This was heaven's first declaration of God's redemption plan, and that plan would not come from far, but through frail humanity in itself it would come. God would not abandon his creation and start over again. He would literally enter it. The prophet Isaiah, 700 years before the birth of Jesus, he said this, prophesying about the birth of Jesus, Isaiah 7:14, "The virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Paul explains that this redemptive plan wasn't a plan that just unfolded, but it was part of God's sovereign plan for all of mankind. It came at just the right time. Galatians chapter 4 says this, "But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons." Jesus was not God pretending to be human. He was fully God and fully man. What does that mean? It meant that he felt hunger, and he felt sorrow, and he felt fatigue, and he was even tempted. But yet the writer of Hebrews tells us that, but yet he did not sin. But all of that enables us to understand that this touch from heaven came in such a real way that the God who created us now understands and feels everything that you and I would ever go through in our life. That he's not so far away, that he's closer to us than we realize. Christmas tells us that God did not just send a messenger, he came himself. He didn't shout from heaven, he stepped into the mess. He didn't remain distant, he came close. When heaven touches earth, our lives are transformed. You know, one touch from heaven can change your life. And maybe you're here today, and that's what you need more than anything else. That the greatest gift that you could unwrap or deal with this year is the idea that you could get new direction for your life. There's this great story in the Old Testament of a man by the name of Moses. Moses, for 40 years, had no direction of his life. He knew that there was something more to his life than what was unfolding. He was described to be on the backside of the desert. But there was this moment when he encountered God. For him, the encounter of heaven touching earth came at a place that was described as a burning bush. And he heard these words, "Moses, Moses, take off your sandals, for the place that you are standing is holy ground." This supernatural encounter changed everything for him. This fugitive became a deliverer. This shepherd became a leader. One touch from heaven, and Moses had a new direction and a divine purpose. one touch from heaven can redirect your life. One of the groups of people in the Gospels that nobody would ever touch or come close to were those that suffered with leprosy. But it's interesting when you read the Gospel, Jesus engaged the people that nobody else would engage. In fact, there's this one account where they came to him and they said that Jesus reached out his hand and he touched them. Before they were healed, before he did anything with them, he understood how powerful heaven touching earth can change someone's life. I was reading recently about a doctor who served people with leprosy in India. And one of his patients, he had put his hand on the patient's shoulder, and the patient started to weep. And he didn't know what he did, and through the translator, what he found out is for the first time in this adult man's life, he had leprosy from a child. No one had ever touched him. A touch is a significant thing in a person's life. The third story I want to share with you is about a woman who suffered from hemorrhaging. And in that story, for 12 years, she sought medical attention. She did everything that she could, but nothing helped her. But one day, while Jesus was passing by, faith welled up inside of her. Somehow she knew, if I could touch heaven, my life could be changed. The gospel writers tell us that she reached out and she touched the hem of Jesus' garment. And in that moment, she was healed. And in that moment, Jesus stopped in the crowd and he said, "Somebody touched me." Whenever you reach out to God, he's already reaching out to you. He's already reaching down to change your life. There's an old chorus that we sang years and years ago. It says, "Reach out and touch the Lord as he passes by. You'll find he's not too busy to hear your heart's cry." He's reaching out this moment, your needs to supply. Reach out and touch the Lord as he goes by. See, when you receive a touch from heaven, your life is so changed that you become a conduit for heaven. A touch from heaven enables you to touch the lives of people. One of the extraordinary things about the Christmas story is the kinds of people that God uses. In this story, this extraordinary story, there are numerous ordinary people. Mary and Joseph, the shepherds, the funny-looking wise men that came from the east, the Magi. Don't you underestimate what God can do through your life. In you, God has placed a divine purpose. And the way that we release that purpose is when we touch heaven. He releases that purpose inside of every single one of us. See, Christmas is not the end of a story. It is simply the beginning. And heaven touching earth really is the beginning of the opportunity for you and I to touch the lives of people with the love and the power of God. Jesus said these words to his disciples. John 20:21, he says, "As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." You know, when you take a candle and you light a candle, unlit candle and a lit candle, when I light this candle, it doesn't diminish or take away the light from that candle. In fact, what it has done, it has grown that light. That light has multiplied. When you touch someone's life, you multiply everything that is inside of you, everything that God has given to you. When you release it into someone else, it really multiplies. That's what Jesus said. Matthew 15, he says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Let me close by giving you 3 thoughts here. Number 1 is this: open your hearts up to be touched by Jesus. In this Christmas season, don't miss your opportunity to simply open your heart to Jesus. Maybe you have never done that before. Maybe you're sitting here today, you've never accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. This whole celebration is about a Savior coming, not just universally, but coming for you and for me. The second thing is this, is to allow Jesus to touch the places in your heart that are hurting. Just like that woman that was suffering with that illness, she reached out and she touched Jesus. And the third thing is this, is to commit your life to touching other people. In this Christmas season, don't miss your opportunity to impact somebody else's life with a touch.